First story. A girl and so-called friend framed me as a creep as a prank, stayed silent when the school suspended me, and my parents kicked me out of the house, believing the false accusations. Now, 15 years later, they contacted me, begging to reconcile and help them. Then again, they tried to threaten me with the same false accusations, so I ruined all their lives. I was 17 when my life completely fell apart. I'll try to keep this as coherent as possible because even now, 15 years later, it's hard to think about without getting angry or breaking down. But with everything that's happening now, I need some perspective, and maybe sharing this will help me figure out what the hell to do. Back then, I was just a regular high school kid. I wasn't super popular, but I wasn't a total outcast either. I had a tight group of 6 friends and we'd known each other since middle school. At least I thought they were my friends. I was also working my arse off to maintain a 4.0 GPA because I had my eyes set on a full scholarship for college. My family wasn't rich, so that scholarship was everything. Then one day I got a note in my locker. It was handwritten and said it was from Emily, a girl in my grade. The note asked me to meet her after school in one of the empty classrooms because she had something important to tell me. Emily was quiet, shy, and not someone I interacted with much, so I was surprised. But I figured maybe she needed help with something. People often came to me for homework or tutoring. I didn't think much of it and showed up. When I walked into that classroom, Emily was already there. She looked uncomfortable. Her arms were crossed, her head down, and she wouldn't really meet my eyes. Before I could even ask what was going on, the door burst open and my friends came storming in. They were yelling and pointing at me like I'd been caught doing something awful. "What the hell are you doing, man?" One of them shouted. Another said, "I knew you were a creep." I was completely blindsided. I kept asking, "What are you talking about?" But they weren't listening. Instead, they were accusing me of cornering Emily, of harassing her. Emily didn't say anything. She just stood there, staring at the ground, looking like she wanted to disappear. The commotion attracted a teacher, and things escalated fast. They dragged me to the principal's office. All 6 of them talking over each other about how I'd been following Emily around for weeks, making creepy comments, and now I'd finally gone too far by trapping her in that room. Emily sat there the whole time, not saying much, but nodding every now and then when someone asked her a direct question. She didn't have to say anything more. Her silence and her body language were enough to make everyone believe them. I tried to explain that the note was a setup, that I'd never done anything like what they were saying. But no one cared. The principal told me I was suspended immediately while they investigated. The rumor mill at school went into overdrive. By the next day, the story had morphed into me stalking Emily, harassing her, and even touching her inappropriately. People were saying I'd been caught in the act, which wasn't even remotely true, but by then the truth didn't matter. Things got worse when my parents got involved. The school called them in for a meeting with Emily's parents. I don't even know where to start with how bad that went. My parents didn't even wait to hear my side of the story. As soon as we got into the principal's office, my dad went off. "What the hell were you thinking?" he yelled in front of everyone. "Do you know what you've done to this family?" My mom was crying, and when I tried to tell them I didn't do anything, she snapped. "How can you lie at a time like this?" Emily's dad was furious too, calling me a predator and saying I was lucky he wasn't charges. The principal just sat there looking disappointed and kept saying how serious this was. Emily barely said a word. She just sat there with her head down, nodding every now and then when someone asked if I'd been bothering her. Her silence was all anyone needed to believe I was guilty. After the meeting, my dad told me I wasn't coming back home. He said I was a disgrace to the family, that I'd ruined any chance of making something of myself. My mom didn't even look at me. They packed a bag for me and left it by the door. Just like that, I was out. I was completely alone. I tried reaching out to my friends, but they either ignored me or doubled down on their lies. The scholarship I was working so hard for? Gone. My teachers, my classmates, even the neighbors, everyone believed the rumors. I couldn't walk down the street without people whispering. Some of them even crossed the road when they saw me, like I was dangerous. Emily never admitted it was all a setup. I don't know if it was fear or guilt or both, but her silence let the accusations stick. The last time I saw her, she wouldn't even look at me. I spent the next few years scraping by, working dead-end jobs and trying to keep a roof over my head. Eventually I became a truck driver because it was the only thing that let me stay away from people. Even now, 15 years later, I'm still dealing with the fallout. I'm single because I don't trust anyone, and I'm on meds for anxiety and PTSD. I've done my best to rebuild my life, but the scars are always there. About a month ago, I got a friend request on Facebook from a name I hadn't seen in 15 years. Alex, one of the ringleaders of the group that framed me. My first instinct was to block him, but curiosity got the better of me. I clicked on his profile, and as soon as I did, I saw that he wasn't the only one. 5 more friend requests followed over the next week, all from the same people who had destroyed my life. I didn't accept any of them, but I didn't block them either. I wanted to see what they were up to, and honestly I think I wanted to know why the hell they were trying to contact me now. Then came the messages. First, Alex sent me a DM starting with, "Hey man, I know this is out of the blue, but can we talk? I need to tell you something important." I ignored it. Then Brian, another one of them, messaged me saying, "I've been feeling really guilty about what happened in high school. We owe you an apology. Please let me explain." The floodgates opened after that. They created a group chat and added me to it. The group was called Making Amends, which honestly made me want to throw my phone out the window. They started posting long-winded messages about how they were young and stupid, and how they never meant for things to go so far. One of them even said, "We didn't know it would ruin your life." As if that made it any better. Then the real gut punch. My parents reached out. First, my dad sent an email, his first contact with me in over a decade, saying they'd been in touch with Alex and the others and had learned the truth. He wrote, "We didn't know, son. If we had known, things would have been different." My mom followed up with a voicemail, crying and saying how sorry she was and begging me to call her back. I didn't. I couldn't. The kicker? Emily messaged me too. Just one line. "I'm so sorry for what I did to you. I want to make things right." I stared at that message for hours, not knowing how to respond or if I even wanted to. I don't know for sure how they tracked me down. My Facebook profile is pretty locked down, but I guess it's not impossible to connect the dots. Maybe they saw me tagged in an old photo from a family member or searched for my name until they found me. The fact that my parents are involved makes me think they might have reached out to my family first, and somehow that led them to me. However they found me, they've been relentless. The group chat is still active, and my inbox is full of messages from people I hoped I'd never hear from again. Part of me wants to confront them, demand to know why they're reaching out now after all these years. Another part of me wants to block them all and keep living my life as far away from them as possible. Update. I wasn't planning on posting an update, but things have escalated far beyond what I expected. I've been reading through your comments and messages, and I can't thank you enough for your support. Sharing my story was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but hearing from people who understand, even strangers, has been more comforting than I ever thought possible. Unfortunately, my situation with Emily and the others has only gotten worse since I first posted. When they first reached out, the messages were all about making amends. They apologized, said they were young and stupid, and claimed they never meant for things to go so far. It was infuriating to read. They didn't seem to understand or care that their so-called prank destroyed my entire life. I ignored their apologies, but they kept messaging. That's when their tone shifted and they started talking about Emily. From what they told me, the entire reason they reached out had nothing to do with genuine remorse. Emily's husband had recently learned about the high school incident, but not the full story. Apparently, one of Emily's friends let something slip during an argument or a casual conversation, and it blew up in her face. Her husband was furious. From what they said, he threatened to leave her unless she could prove her innocence. Emily tried to smooth things over, claiming it was all a misunderstanding from their teenage years, but she could tell he didn't believe her. The others admitted that Emily was panicking because her husband has started looking into the incident himself. She thinks he's trying to find out the truth behind her lies, and it's scaring the hell out of her. Instead of facing the consequences of her actions, Emily decided to do what she's always done. Make it someone else's problem. She and her friends tracked me down, hoping to shut me up before her husband could dig too deep. At first they tried guilt and manipulation. They kept saying things like, "You don't understand how much she has to lose, and we were just kids back then. It's not fair to ruin lives over this now." They acted like we were all equally responsible for what happened, like it wasn't their lies that destroyed me in the first place. When that didn't work, they started with the threats. They told me that if I didn't cooperate, they'd have no choice but to report me for harassing Emily. They warned me that they could easily make people believe I was some kind of stalker, and that it wouldn't take much to ruin me again. One of them even brought up my job, saying employers don't like being associated with people who cause trouble. The fact that they knew where I worked made my blood run cold. I realized they'd done some serious digging to track me down, not just online, but through my parents and possibly other connections. Throughout all of this, Emily hasn't contacted me directly, but it's clear she's orchestrating everything. Her silence says it all. She's hiding behind her friends, because she knows she can't spin this herself. It's pathetic, really. She spent 15 years pretending to be the victim, building her perfect life on a foundation of lies. And now that it's all falling apart, she's doing whatever it takes to protect herself, even if it means trying to destroy me again. I'll admit this whole situation has dredged up a lot of old emotions. For years I told myself I was over it. But reading their messages has brought all the pain and anger back. At the same time, I'm not the same person I was back then. I'm not powerless anymore, and I refuse to let them control my life again. To everyone who's been following my story, thank you. Your comments and support have reminded me that I'm not alone in this, and that I have every right to stand up for myself. I'll post another update when I've decided what to do next. For now, I'm focusing on protecting myself and keeping my head clear. Update: when the threats started coming, I felt like I was 17 again. The messages went from fake apologies to veiled threats, and now they weren't even trying to hide it. They accused me of harassing Emily by ignoring their attempts to reconcile, twisting everything to make it seem like I was the one escalating. One of the messages hit me like a punch to the gut. "If you don't stop this, we'll have no choice but to report you for harassing Emily again. You wouldn't want your employer to hear about this, would you?" That was the moment I lost it. They had already ruined my life once. I'd spent years clawing my way out of the pit they threw me into, and now they were threatening to do it again. I wasn't going to let them. Not this time. I didn't respond to the group chat. Instead, I spent the rest of the night screenshotting every single message they'd sent me, every apology, every manipulation, every threat. I made sure to save copies of everything, even the earliest messages where they were pretending to be remorseful. The next day, I went straight to my boss. I work as a truck driver for a small but reputable company, and I've always kept my head down and done my job. I was terrified they'd take the group's lies seriously, but I knew I couldn't risk them finding out from someone else. When I sat down with my boss, I laid everything out. I told him about the past incident in high school, how I was framed, and how these people had found me and were now trying to sabotage me again. I showed him the screenshots as proof. To my relief, my boss believed me. He's the kind of guy who values honesty, and I think he could see how shaken I was. He told me he trusted me and offered to help. I asked for a transfer, explaining that I wanted to put some distance between myself and these people in case they tried to escalate things further. He agreed without hesitation, saying, "We'll take care of it. You focus on keeping yourself safe." But I wasn't done. If they thought they could bully me into silence, they were dead wrong. I decided it was time to fight back. I hired a private investigator. It cost more money than I'd normally spend, but I didn't care. I wanted everything: social media profiles, public records, family connections. If they wanted to play dirty, I could too. The PI worked fast. Within a week, I had a comprehensive list of their personal connections. Emily's husband, her parents, and even the spouses and families of the others. Armed with this information, I put my plan into motion. I compiled all the screenshots into a single document and sent it to everyone who mattered. Emily's husband was the first on the list. I included a detailed account of what happened back in high school, how Emily had framed me, and how she and her friends were now trying to threaten me into silence to protect her reputation. I didn't stop there. I sent the same document to Emily's parents, her in-laws, and the spouses or close relatives of the others. If they had wives, husbands, or even adult kids, they got a copy. I made sure to frame it carefully. I wasn't asking for revenge. I just wanted them to know exactly who they were dealing with. The message was simple. This is who they are. This is what they've done. And this is what they're trying to do again. It didn't take long for the fallout to begin. The group chat went completely silent. No more threats, no more fake apologies, nothing. I'm guessing they were too busy dealing with the fallout from their families and partners to bother with me anymore. From what little I've read on their Insta comments section, Emily's husband was furious. Apparently he had no idea how deep the lies went. And my screenshots made it impossible for her to spin the story any further. Her friends didn't fare much better. Some of their spouses or family members were horrified when they saw the messages, especially the threats. After sending everything to Emily's husband and the others, I changed everything again. I deleted my social media accounts, changed my phone number, and moved to a new location through the transfer my boss helped arrange. I made sure no trace of me remained online, not even an old email address. Before I closed that chapter of my life, I sent one final letter to my parents. I poured everything into it, every ounce of anger, hurt, and betrayal I've carried for the last 15 years. I told them they failed me when I needed them most. That they weren't just bad parents, they were the worst people I've ever known. I told them they could cry and beg all they wanted. But it wouldn't erase the fact that they abandoned me when I was at my lowest, when I had no one else in the world. I made it clear I blamed them just as much as Emily and her friends for the life I've had to live. I ended the letter by saying, I hope they had a miserable life, the same way they'd left me to live mine. Then I blocked them too. I don't know what's going on with Emily or the others now. Maybe they're too busy trying to salvage their lives to come after me again. Maybe they'll stay silent for good. Whatever happens, I'm done letting them control my life. Update. Hey, everyone. I'm writing this update from a new account because, as I mentioned before, I deleted all my socials after everything went down. My old account is probably floating around in limbo somewhere. But I figured I owed an update for the few people who might still be wondering how things turned out. So here it is. I'm doing great, better than I thought I'd be, honestly. After I changed my location, phone number, and pretty much disappeared from their lives, I finally started to feel some peace. No more threats, no more manipulations, no more people trying to control my life. Just silence. And it was everything I needed. I've been working on myself little by little. I'm still single, but I've started putting myself out there again. It's terrifying after everything, but I'm trying. No therapy yet, I can't afford it right now, but I've been focusing on building a life I'm proud of. I'll admit, curiosity got the better of me. I've been keeping an eye on their socials here and there, just enough to see how things turned out for them. And well, karma worked its magic. Emily. Her life completely fell apart. She's divorced, disowned by her family, and financially ruined. From what I've pieced together, her husband kicked her out after I sent him everything. She tried to spin it for a while, but I think the weight of the truth and the screenshots was too much for her to escape. Her social media is a train wreck now. Vague posts about being misunderstood and begging for support from people who clearly don't care anymore. The others. 3 of the friends ended up divorced too. From what I've seen, their ex-spouses found out about the threats and lies they'd been involved in, and it shattered their families. One of them has kids who openly post about hating their dad. I can't lie, it felt good seeing that. 3 of them aren't active on social media. So I don't know exactly what happened. But from what I've gathered, they lost their jobs. I guess when you spend your life being a manipulative arsehole, it catches up to you eventually. One of the biggest surprises was Emily's husband. After everything happened, he actually tracked me down. I wasn't sure how I felt about it at first. Having someone that wealthy and connected find you isn't exactly comforting. But when we met, he wasn't angry or accusatory. He was sincere. He apologized for Emily and for everything that happened. He admitted he didn't know the full extent of what she and her friends did until I sent him the proof. We ended up having a drink together, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was being judged or questioned. It was just 2 people acknowledging how messed up the situation was. I wouldn't call us friends, but I respect him for owning up to everything and trying to do the right thing once he knew the truth. I haven't spoken to my parents since the letter I sent them. I meant every word I wrote, and I don't regret it. I don't care if they feel guilty or remorseful, it doesn't erase what they did to me. They had their chance to stand by me and they chose not to. I'm not interested in giving them a second one. If you're wondering how I feel now, the answer is simple. Unhappy. For the first time in over 16 years, I feel like I'm in control of my own life. I don't wake up every day thinking about the past or dreading what might happen next. There's still a long way to go. I'm not magically healed or anything, and I know therapy would probably help, but for now I'm just taking it one day at a time. I have a steady job, my own place, and a sense of peace I haven't felt in years. That's enough for me right now. To anyone who's still following this, thanks for caring. Sharing my story was scary as hell, but it helped me more than I expected. And if you're going through something similar, just know that you can take your life back too. It's not easy, but it's worth it. Take care, everyone. Second story. My delusional wife invited my golden child brother to stay at our house behind my back, then brushed my feelings aside, saying he is my brother and has the right to stay in my house. I lost it. My brother, 39 and 20, lives with his girlfriend about an hour's drive away from me and my wife. My brother and I have never been close due to the age difference. Our parents had me young and then him later in life. He was always the spoiled one who got whatever he wanted. We see each other on holidays and special occasions, but other than that we might talk on the phone once or twice a month. Last night I had to work late and could not be reached by phone. When I got off, I noticed that I had 2 missed calls from my brother and a few from my wife. But it was already close to 11 p.m., so I chose to just drive home and not call and possibly wake someone up. I walk into the house and see my wife 41 effin' brother on the couch, playing Mario Kart. When I walk in, they both say hi and go back to their game. I went to the bedroom to shower and frankly just sleep. I was exhausted. My wife comes in a few minutes later, and I ask her why my brother was there. She said he called her because he and his girlfriend had gotten into a pretty heated argument, and he just needed to get away from the situation for a little, while he figured out what he was going to do. They only have one car and it's in the girlfriend's name, so he couldn't take it. Apparently he tried to call me, and when I didn't answer he called her and she went and picked him up an hour away, even though she hates driving at night. They also went out to dinner before coming home. I told her that I find it odd that she would pick up my brother and take him to dinner just because he got into an argument with his girlfriend. That he is an adult and needed to work it out. She just rolled her eyes at me and said he would be staying in the spare room as long as he needed, that I was acting weird, and that he is my brother and has no idea why it was such a huge deal that he was here. I told her that if someone is staying at my house, especially my family, I should be the one who decides that. That he had no right to call her. That he should have waited for me to call him back and would be talking to him in the morning. She told me to deal with it and grow up. That he was always welcome here. My wife is now mad at me, and I am stuck with my brother in the house, for who knows how long until he figures out his life. We already have 2 teens. I don't need another kid here. I stand by what I said. My brother doesn't need to be here. But my wife is still mad at me today. AITA for saying that she should not have picked up my brother and allowed him to stay at the house. More info from OP in the comments. My brother never did anything horrible. Just our lives growing up were so different. My parents didn't have money when I was young. So I was denied a lot of fun things that he was able to have, because he came when they were older and settled into a career. He chose to live with the girlfriend when he was 18. They rent an apartment together. That was his choice. If I got into an argument or fight with my wife, I sure as hell wouldn't be running to my brother for help. He needs to grow up and deal with his own issues, and she needs to quit falling for everyone's sob story. He is an adult. But he is staying at my home like a kid. Go home, work it out. Not call me or my wife to come rescue him. He does not own a car. They share a car. That is in her name. The city they live in has wonderful public transportation that he relies on. There is even service from where he lives to where we live. Just not at night. They are both on the lease for the apartment. He works from home right now. I still don't know what the situation is with him and his GF or what happened. I had to go to work. So I have not had a chance to talk to him or the wife. I just don't think when things get tough he should be running to family. He should suck it up and deal with his own issues. My wife. She is too soft and cares too much about everyone. I have tried for years to get her to have a backbone. But she feels bad when people are feeling bad. My parents live 2 states away. So yes, he could have called them. But they couldn't have done anything. They would have just ended up calling me too, asking me to help him out. I don't think anything is going on with my wife and brother. I met my wife when I was 19, and she was 21. She has known my brother basically since he was born. When we would visit my parents, he was always her little buddy. I just think that it's time he grew up and figured his SHT out on his own. That she stopped feeling bad for everyone with a problem. We have a 16 and 17-year-old. I don't want them running home every time they have a problem as an adult. They will need to learn to be independent, just like my brother needs to. I haven't really had a chance to talk to anyone today as I am at work. He works from home. So I am assuming he is at my house working right now. I do plan on talking to both of them after work. Because my wife won't answer my texts right now. People keep asking the same question over and over. I don't like my brother because he was spoiled as a child and given many opportunities that I was not. My parents expected me to have a job at 16, and I moved out at 18. He was sent to a better school, given better clothes, and allowed to be in band and other activities that when I was growing up they couldn't afford and didn't have to have a job until he graduated. He is 20. He has been with his girlfriend since he was 17. He needs to be talking to her, working it out. Not at my house playing Mario Kart with my wife. No, I don't think they are having an affair. She has known him since the day he was born. He was always her little buddy. When we started having kids, she would include him in the activities like going to the zoo or to the park or whatever. This bothered me because these were things that I didn't get to do often as a child. But she always disregarded my feelings on this matter. My parents and brother moved 2 states away when he was 14. I never kept in touch, minus holidays and an occasional phone call. I don't know if my wife kept in touch with my brother. She never said anything. He moved back when he was 18 with his girlfriend. There is a lower cost of living here, and he was able to find a decent job working from home. I honestly just don't think that once you move out and are on your own, you should rely on family to help you out of any situation. People need to learn to 100% rely on themselves, or they will never make it in this world. Same goes for my kids. I will talk to my wife and brother tonight and find out when he is leaving, because he is not staying much longer. Update. I don't think just because I think at 18 a person should be out of the house and not rely on family to support them makes me a bad person. People need to grow up, and I expect the same from my children. They are expected to have a job and save money to move out when they are 18 and graduated from high school. If they go to college, they can stay but are expected to pay for it on their own and pay a small amount of rent. My wife does not agree with this and says they can stay as long as they need. I am trying to make her see reason. As a kid, I was never taken to the zoo, museums, or out to eat. I was sent to a public school and not allowed to play sports or do activities because there was never money. I had to get a job as soon as I could. My parents were 16 when they had me. Even when they got older and had more money, I still did not get the opportunities that my brother was given. He got the best and I got nothing. It's time he stood on his own. Yes, my kids got to go to the zoo/park/museums, play sports and attend activities. They get a lot of what I didn't. But those are my kids, not my brother's. I don't see why my wife would take him along with her. My brother has always loved her like another mom. So I had to share her with my brother too. I got home from work last night. Everyone was getting ready for dinner. After dinner I told the kids to please go to their rooms, so I could talk to my brother and wife. I asked my brother why he was there and why he felt the need to call us instead of working it out. He said that he just needed to get out of the house. He had found out that his girlfriend had cheated on him, and she was planning on leaving. She blamed him for her cheating because he wouldn't marry her or have a baby with her, and that was what she really wanted. I said what she wanted wasn't unreasonable. That he was being immature. If he could live with her, he could marry her. My wife said that not everyone wants to be married and have children that young. He is an adult. Grow up. I said I didn't appreciate them making decisions without me. This could have been sorted out the next morning. No one needed to drive 2 hours or run away from home. I asked when my brother planned on leaving. He talked to his girlfriend. She was moving out by Sunday. Then he would go home. He had 2 months left on the lease, so he was gonna look for something smaller to move into. I said that I didn't like him staying that long. My wife said, "He's your brother. A few days are not going to kill anyone." I agreed just to stop the fight. I didn't like it. But I felt backed into a corner. I still think he needs to go home and deal with his own problems. My brother said, "Thanks, I appreciate it," and walked off. My wife and I talked some more. Neither one of us is really happy with one another. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button and share it with your friends.